Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Mixed Media Mayhem combined with Use the Stuff. Today we are doing our monthly hop for Mixed Media Mayhem. You can join the Facebook group and find out what the monthly inspiration is and play along if you'd like. This one is from Julie Taylor for Hip Kit Clubs, and I really love it. I am using a stencil that is not exactly like hers, but it's similar in that it is a geometric and has a lot of pattern that breaks up, so it's not like a big there's big openings in the stencil. And this stencil is from Scrapping Reflections over at Sandy's site. It is the lantern stencil, and I think this is maybe my second time using it, and I love it, especially for this particular application. I am using some opaque white texture paste from Ranger, and I really like this one. If you struggle with putting things through stencils, like it mushes out the backside of your stencil or whatever, you're probably first off maybe overworking it, or you have something that is a little bit more liquidy. But this one is a great one because it is a little thicker, and you don't have to worry about it so much going through the stencil. So I'm just showing you here all of the things that I am using. I believe that was grapefruit, this peachy color from Shimmerz that I'm using. And then the purpley bluish one there is called Corny Flower Blue. So I'm going to use that as well. And then I've also got Witch's Blue, which is a dark like navy blue. Rednecking, which is a pinky color. It's like pretty much pink. And then the other one is, you know what, I can't even remember, and I just held it up. I am using a Jane Davenport aqua brush that has it's peach, and so I'm trying to get some variation in the tones of the color or the depth of the color, or how saturated it is actually. And so I am using that peach to kind of make it a little bit more bold in some spots. Oh, the other color that I have is I think Blue Lagoon, or something to that effect, and that is a Shimmerz product as well, because I wanted to bring in a little bit of that turquoisey teal color, just because some of the other things I'm going to be using has a little bit of a nod to that. So it's going to be very subtle, but I really like the way that it came out. So I thought I would also possibly use that Catherine Pooler ink pad that is called Tranquil, because it's along the same lines as this Corny Flower Blue, and just to give, again, a little bit of a variation in the color. Now, I'm kind of randomly just applying this. My texture paste is all dry. I am actually just using Daisy White cardstock from Close to My Heart. It's holding up really well. I do use this quite a bit for mixed media, not usually when I'm spraying the entire page like I did on Wednesday's video, but for this type of an application, this works great. I think it would actually work great if you sprayed the entire thing, but if you're spraying just a portion of it and you're doing a lot of like work on it, it might not hold up as well. But you know, for a white cardstock, it works great. So when I'm doing a lot of iterations of ink and that kind of stuff, I tend to go with the Vicky Bouton foundation paper, just because it doesn't warp as easy, and it's so thick, it gives me a lot of playtime. Whereas these other cardstocks, they suck up the liquid a lot faster than the Vicky Bouton paper does, so you don't have as much playtime. Now I'm just going through the crevices, and adding some of those darker colors. I will kind of go over it at the end with a baby wipe and wipe off some of the white. It's not 100% a resist. It does resist to some extent, but not 100%, because if your paper gets saturated all the way through and underneath, it will start to suck up into that texture paste. Now here's where I added some of that rednecking to kind of go with a little bit more of a pinkish red hue. But I don't want to go too far down that path. I just want to give it more depth. Now I'm just adding a little bit of water all the way around the framework of where I'm working, because if all of the fibers on the paper are wet, it's less likely to buckle than if just one spot is wet, because what happens is the water soaks into the fibers and expands them. Now, if all of them are expanding, it looks, it keeps it more flat than if you just have a puddle in one area and just like that little section is expanded, then it kind of buckles and becomes warped. So I don't know if that was a very good explanation of that, but hopefully that was understandable. Now I'm adding a little bit of the Blue Lagoon shimmers, again adding just a little bit of that turquoisey teal color, but I'm doing it very subtly. As you can see here, it's not going to be very vibrant or bold. I'm just kind of intermixing it here and there and really watering it down quite a bit once it's on the page, because I don't want it to stick out like a sore thumb. I just want to have a little nod to it here and there. And then I'm adding a little more cornflower blue. Okay, so this is going to be my background paper. I'm just adding a few of those same colors. Probably not the red necking. I think I just add the peach and the, which is grapefruit, I believe. And then I'm adding the cornflower blue, and do a little bit of a splatter of the Blue Lagoon. And again, I'm splattering over the other section that I did. Now, as you can see, the section that I did with the stenciling, that was just a leftover piece that I had used out of my my scraps, because I had used it to cut some words on. So here is my finished little piece there. You can see I have kind of that drippy, not drippy, but where it kind of funnels down to a smaller section on the background paper. And now I'm just kind of figuring out my layers. I have this piece from One Canoe to Twilight, which I think is perfect. And then that blue one is Heart of Home from Jen Hadfield, the one with the text on it. This one I think is possibly, I don't know, is that Bungalow Lane? I have no idea. And then I don't end up using that black and white floral. I thought I wanted a black and white in there, but I don't end up going with it. That plaid is also from Heart of Home from Jen Hadfield. This stripe is a super old My Mind's Eye from Now and Then. And same with the quatrefoil paper. And yeah, I'm just kind of layering them up, tearing them. I want my edges to be kind of torn and distressed, so I will pull out my distress tool. I don't show you distressing every edge, but I do distress a couple of them on camera. But I don't show you all of it just because it's a lengthy process and it's quite messy. But I do love this distresser, you guys, in case you are not already aware of it. I am not someone who really liked to distress items before, but this one I'm distressing way more stuff than I ever did before. It is from MK's shop, Some Assemblage Required, and I'll put a link to it below. I'm not sure if she has any in stock at the moment. Last I looked, she did. But they are awesome because it's so easy to hold. It's kind of chunky in your hand, easy to hang on to while you are roughing up all of those edges. So now I'm just kind of figuring out my layers and how I'm going to put them down. And I did cut the border off of my mixed media piece. That is the only unfortunate thing about the stencil, is that it's not it's a 12 by 12 stencil, but the inside dimension of it doesn't go all the way to the outside of the paper. And I didn't feel like moving it, like trying to match up the pattern. So I just left it as it was, and I'm going to make it work. I really like the way that it ends up looking. So I'm going to have kind of a framework around it with this kind of periwinkle grid looking paper. And I'm going to obviously grunge up these edges too, but I do end up going back and tearing the bottom edge of my mixed media because it's just too perfect. Even with the distress tool, it's too perfect because all of my other pages or pieces are torn. So I'm going to go back and tear that. You're going to see that happen in a bit here. That striped paper, I think that one is from Felicity Jane, and I've had that for a little while, so I don't know. Just went through my stash, and I have my papers organized by color. Any paper that is not specific to a collection that I haven't used much of, I sort in by color where I can. And so it makes it really easy just to go through and look at the purpley blue kind of stuff or the peachy stuff and pull out things that I think I would like for whatever I happen to be working on, in this case, this layout. So here's where I went ahead and tore that bottom edge, and then I do distress it as well. And I am going to make it a little lower on the page and trim off the top of that grid paper so it's not as big. And I like the way that looks. I do a bunch of stitching on this as well, but I kind of, I'm going to stitch across the bottom of that mixed media paper, but then I will do some stitching at the very end as well. In case you're wondering about that photo, that is me and MK, and this is when we did a little getaway to hang out with Joni and Cindy, and we did a bunch of our 2025 cruise class planning, and so that's what we were doing at the table there, doing some planning, and I don't know, either Joni or Cindy came out and snapped a couple of pictures. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I wanted to go ahead and document it because usually we do our planning over Messenger and have long conference calls, but in this case we got to get together and do it, and it was really fun. So thank you for making that happen, Joni, and thank you for joining us, Cindy. It was awesome. I've pulled out some Pink Fresh Studio ephemera. I'm trying to use the stuff, you guys, so I'm going through this ephemera and I'm going to try and use what I can of it. It's got a lot of periwinkle and a lot of peach in it, and I thought that is like the perfect combination since that's what I'm working with. And so I'm just going to flip through and see what I have and what will work. And then I pulled out some more Pink Fresh stuff because when a company tends to use a color once, they tend to use it again in more of their collections. And so they have some of these darker periwinkle florals in a different collection. So I believe those are all from different collections, I'm pretty sure. But they all seem to work. So I am liking the way that is looking. I found that the florals look really good next to this title I'm going to use. It says Beautiful Ordinary Life, and so I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. And then I found these two squashed hexagons. I don't know what they're actually really called, but I call them a squashed hexagon. And I thought those worked really well at the bottom of the page there, and this little frame up at the top hanging down. You can see the stitching that I did across the top of that mixed media and then a zigzag stitch at the bottom of the mixed media, and I'm really liking how that all came out. I used a navy blue thread to do all of that, and I'm pretty happy with the way that it all came out. I am just using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to adhere everything down, and you can see that there is still some of the mixed media showing behind those hexagons. That is just exactly what I was planning on, and it's very similar to what Julie has in her original piece that you can see there in the corner. And I just like the way that it brings the mixed media down to the bottom of the layout. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam behind my title to give it a little bit of added height. And I'm also being mindful because all of those little torn edges of paper are adding more texture and more lift behind my title. So I want to make sure that the foam kind of nestles in between the ridges so that it supports supports the title, and I don't have a wavy title on my layout. So I will add a little bit of glue to that, and I'll probably put my acrylic block right over the top to hold it in place until it is dry. So I'm just figuring out the placement of the photograph, how low it's going to go before I put my title down. So I kind of have to figure out all of the pieces that are going to be up at the top of the photograph before I can glue it down, because I might need to move it a little lower. I really tried to get this piece on here. It says all together now or something like that, but I don't end up using it. It goes back in the package. Maybe it'll get used somewhere else. But playing with these two little sprigs that I'm are the perfect colors. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where to put them. They're going to go back up to the right-hand side of the photo where they were. I have enough foliage hanging down here. I didn't feel like they looked great underneath the title. I thought it was more confusing to the eye, so I decided just to move them back where they were to the right of the photo, and I like the way that that's looking. So now that my photo is glued down, I can work on my title placement and get that glued down. And then I am just going to add a few more little flowers over to this right-hand side. And I really like the way that these little pieces or these flowers kind of hang down. I was conscientious not to have it hanging down right on top of MK's head. So I kind of leaned it a little bit towards the right, but I think it looks fine where it's at, and it's not actually on her head or anything like that. There was one of these little dark blue flowers in the ephemera pack, and then there's some leaves that were on the other half of the frame that I cut off, and so I'm going to have those little leaves coming in from the bottom to bring in that darker inky blue color, which is just really a darker version of that periwinkle. And I'm liking how that's looking. I'm just trying to figure a place for the other half of the frame, and I decided to tuck it down in my layers, and I like how that looks because it brings more of that color down below the photo. While I go ahead and work on this, you guys, this is the monthly hop that we do for Mixed Media Mayhem, and everyone is invited to play along. Like I mentioned earlier, there is a Facebook group. I'll put the link down below, and we always post the inspiration early in the month so that you can play along if you are interested in that, and you can post the list of people playing along if you have a YouTube channel or in your Instagram, if that's something that you want to do. So it is a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. The rest of the time we usually have recipes or possibly inspiration pieces as well throughout the rest of the month. So you can always come back and check it out in the Facebook group and see what's going on. So I did add my stitching. I added some stitching across the left hand portion of the frame at the top. I added some stitching over the blue squashed, or the inky blue squashed hexagon, and over the label that's at the bottom of the photo and the labels at the top of the photo. I don't know if you can see them on your screen, but they are there. And now I'm just adding some sequins out of this Spiegel Mom Scraps sequin pack. And I don't have a lot of new sequins. These are all older ones. I don't know if they're even available anymore, but I think they're a great addition to a layout because you get so many in a pack, and you can mix and match them, and they're very useful and add a little sparkle to your layout. So that's super fun. The tool I'm using there to apply them is called a crystal katana, in case you're interested in that as well. So there it is, you guys. You can see the stitching, and you can see all of that sheen in the Shimmerz products, and that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, you guys. If you have questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And don't forget to check out everyone else who is playing along with this month's Mixed Media Mayhem. And don't forget to check out MK's channel to see how she is using the stuff. I will be back again on Sunday with another video, so come back and join me then, and have a great rest of your day and your weekend. So I will see you soon. Bye-bye.